Hello and welcome to Literally Me, the Ryan Gosling Rewatch Podcast. I am your host, Dean's Beans, and as always, I'm joined by my favorite American in the whole world, Fluffy Duffy. Hello, Harlan.
Hello, dear. I'm in a little bit of a pickle.
Okay, why are you in a pickle? I thought you were in America.
Um,
Thanks for listening, guys.
yeah, I'm done with this. I we didn't watch a Ryan Gosling movie this week.
Well, no, that's because I discovered something really interesting, which I sent over to Harlan. I don't know if our listeners would have heard of such a thing existing, but we
Mm.
found well, I found this piece of media. It's a TV show, so it's like a film, but different. And it didn't have Ryan Gosling in it, and I never really experienced anything like that before. So I thought I'd send it over, and we could like talk about what a piece of media would be like if Ryan Gosling wasn't in it.
At first, once I started watching it and Ryan Gosling wasn't coming on screen, I was like, projectile vomiting
Yeah,
because I wasn't understanding what was happening. But
yeah.
then I got used to it.
Well,
And the
well,
show we're talking, can we, the show we're talking about today, if you've seen by the thumbnail or the title, or you just been paying attention, we're talking about The Boys today.
yeah. The Boys season 4 specifically. I think I had a bit of a different reaction to you, where I kept thinking he was going to pop up, and then when episode 8 ended, that's when I started projectile vomiting.
I was really putting my chips in he was Black Noir.
Oh, okay. And then he took the mask off, and then you were
Yeah.
mistaken. Anyway, for those of you who've only jumped on this podcast train since we've started talking about Ryan Gosling things, you won't know that me and Harlan are both big fans of The Boys.
Mm-hmm.
Love it. We really enjoy how it's completely non-political, and we really look up to Homelander. And
What a double whammy of unfortunate sentences.
and yeah, we thought we'd take a week out of our rotation of the gods to talk about The Boys. Um, Harlem,
Dean?
out of interest, out of the first three series of The Boys, which
Mm-hmm.
do you think is your favorite season?
Three.
Three, really? That was
Yeah.
very quick.
I because three was fantastic. Soldier Boy, Butcher having powers, Huey having power. I don't really like what they've done with the only this is a hot. I think the only season Huey was written to, I think Huey was his best in season one. It has only gotten worse. Not as a
I
character, but his writing.
I think I would agree with that. So personally, my favorite season, I think, is season 2. I think there's some really good Huey stuff at the start of that season where he's just completely lost and he doesn't know what to do with himself. And he's calling Starlight and being like, "Hey, you're my second wind." That stuff I enjoy. I really like that Huey stuff. And I love season 3. We're both big fans of season 3, but I just think I prefer season 2 because I think season 3 has quite a disappointing finale.
I would agree with you, but like, let's say if we were really hoping the season finale of season three was going to be a 10 out of 10, maybe it was a 7.
Yeah,
But with that, the season three has easily my favorite episode of The Boys, which is Hero Gasm.
I do agree on that.
Easily.
I just think there's just so many fumbles and missed opportunities in that single episode. But we're not here to talk about seasons 1 to 3. We're here to talk about season 4. Harlan, do you want to just give us your general thoughts?
General thoughts. Um, I enjoyed it, but
Yeah,
I've enjoyed every season of The Boys.
yeah,
I think there were some episodes that were really strong. I think there were episodes that were weak. I
yeah.
think there were plot lines that really paid off. I think there were some that didn't at all. I think it was a big hit or miss season.
Okay, so on a scale of 1 to 10, one being um something bad,
Secret
and
Invasion.
okay, one being Secret Invasion and 10 being season 3 of The Boys. Where are you putting season 4 of The Boys?
I still think I give it like an 8 out of 10.
I was going to say a 7 or an 8. I think is decent. I agree with you a lot personally. I think this season is the opposite of season 3, where I loved so much of season 3, and I think the last 2 episodes were a bit disappointing. Here, I think the first 6 episodes, there's some great stuff in there, but I think largely there's disappointing stuff in there. But I think the last 2 episodes were really, really great.
I agree. What there was one thing, the one arc.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how do I get into this? I think the 100% biggest fumble of this season was Huey.
Yes, and I personally, so there's 2 ways we can talk about this. Let's talk about, should we just talk about character by character? I think that's an
Sure,
interesting.
we can do that.
Huey, to start with, I don't mind his sub arc with his mum and his dad. I think there's some steps there, but number one, Simon Pegg is incredible in the episode where he's awake.
I think episode 5 was my favorite episode of the season.
Yeah, I think it's a really solid episode, and I think that's a really solid moment. I think, yeah, yeah, I think that the stuff with his mum did feel a little bit unneeded. I want to say I understand how it did kind of tie into his larger arc, and I get it, because I people were saying I was completely unneeded, all the Simon Pegg stuff. It's there in theory, because him learning to let go with his dad and realizing how strong his dad really is what led him to be able to forgive Newman and out, and that stuff really worked. I do think I think the weakness of it is it's one of those classic things. It's like this syndrome always makes me think of the Flash. I'll name it Iris West syndrome, although I don't want to be one of those people that are absolutely hating on her, where you're watching a TV show like The Flash and you're really enjoying the stuff to do with The Flash, and then it cuts away to an Iris West plot line and you're like, oh, this is pretty dull.
You know what? Like, I personally, what I don't think what Huey's been doing I don't think it's been dull. Like the Tech Knight scene is anything but dull.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
the
like,
second part of the Huey stuff to talk about. But
like what I thought they really fumbled with Huey was they put him through the ringer this
yeah,
season.
100%. And I think that like Huey's stuff is split into the first 5 episodes and then the last 3, because the first 5 episodes he's largely separate from the boys. He's with his dad. He's helping him out, and then he pops up every now and then to, like, look out for Butcher, that sort of thing. The last 3 episodes, I agree, are some of the I would say the stuff that happens to Huey in the last 3 episodes of this season is the worst stuff in The Boys.
And the reason why, like, the Tech Knight scene, what let's just quickly go through so I can get my head around this.
Yeah.
Tech Knight scene, the shapeshifter.
Yeah.
And another thing happens. His
I think
dad dying.
Yeah, and his dad dying.
So those 3 things puts Huey through the ringer.
Yeah.
And, the Tech Knight scene, we've had a sexual assault potentially triggered to some viewers, but we're going there. Starlight has been there.
Yeah.
And the show treats it with a very considerate level of maturity and understanding.
Even in season 1, when it happened to the Deep, like that one, I think was framed really well, because it was kind of in a way where you as a viewer were initially like, oh, this guy's the worst, he deserves it, and then you really feel sorry for him and you pity him. And I think that is like a really well done scene that's done tastefully. The stuff with Tech Knight, have you seen the quote that Eric Kripke said?
He just thought it was really funny, right?
Yeah, so you keep talk us through your thoughts a little bit, and I'll find the exact thing, because I want to get it right.
When Huey goes through the Tech Knight scene, it is awful. Like, you should be getting a certain level of trauma through that. But although it during the events, it does come off as mostly a joke, which is understandable. Even afterwards, it isn't treated
Yeah,
with any level of um I don't know what's the right word I'm looking for.
like
Respect.
yeah, like it's done very distastefully where it is just treated as a joke. And to prove that,
Yeah.
here's the quote. This was from an interview that Eric Kripke, who's the showrunner of The Boys, said. This is the question the interviewer asked. Let's start with the Tech Knight sex dungeon part. Where did the idea come for it, and why bring Huey into this situation now, kicking him when he's down by having him sexually assaulted by his childhood hero after his dad just died? That's completely what happened in the episode. I'm sure you will agree. Um, and then his reply was, well, that's a dark way to look at it. We view it as hilarious.
Yeah.
And
So
I'm a bit lost, and I think it's kind of a thing here. And I don't want to be that guy because it's kind of a thing where I think very rightfully so. Um, I think the way The Boys kind of skews this like sexuality and this like sexual perversion and the sexual assault things, I think it's always done really tactfully when it's directed towards a woman. And I think the fact that it's Huey and that he's kind of this bumbling guy, I think they're being like, oh, this can be funny.
yeah. And I do think that also um yeah, I agree. And it happens again to Huey
Mm-hmm.
in the penultimate episode. Is that how you say that
Yes,
correctly?
Ultimate and the last episode when the shapeshifter replaces Annie. And like I don't dislike that one as much. I think if the Tech Knight stuff didn't happen and it was just that, I don't really think we would be talking about it as much. But I think the fact that it happened straight after the straight after the Tech Knight stuff really made it bad.
Yeah. And again, this is kind of getting into Starlight a little bit, which I'll try to save.
Yeah.
But she gets mad at Huey,
Yeah,
and
so
Huey doesn't get upset at her being mad.
yeah, so I've seen stuff about this online, and my viewpoint is I think it's completely understandable that Starlight got mad and that Huey kind of didn't have a go at her for it because she's a victim in this situation as well. She was just locked up for not 20 days, for however long it was, like 10 days, and she's never like and then she's like, oh, Huey should have noticed something. I understand why she's mad. I just think the issue is where the show kind of frames this issue.
Yeah. No, I like if you take a look at like a psychological perspective, you can understand it, but the way the show presents the problem and solves it, it just I don't I literally don't think the writers in Eric Kripke thought of it that way.
I agree. I do think the shapeshifter stuff is done a lot better than the Tech Knight stuff. And like I said, if it was just the shapeshifter stuff, I don't think it would be as bad because that stuff is an awful.
Something I really hope that happens is in the final season, they hear the complaints that we had for Huey. Not our complaints, but the show's fan base entirely. Because it's not just us. And this is not a singular opinion.
This is
Um,
pretty, yeah. Even I like how if you click on the Instagram comments and stuff on The Boys that's completely unrelated to those scenes, it does come up.
yeah. So I hope that they react to that and kind of course correct a little bit because I think they should. And I think it would make Huey's character really interesting for the final season.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, I think that's all my Huey thoughts. I think yeah, I like where he ends up this season. I kind of like his like him being able to forgive Newman and that sort of thing. And I think I do agree that I think they should go back to him being more of an everyman. And I think they should lean into his tech expertise as well. Because what someone pointed out is that every member of the boys previously had like a speciality that they were good at. And the only person that's really kept that is Frenchie.
what was Mother's Milk good at?
Mother's Milk was good at in season 1. He was the one that was going out and gathering intel on stuff and like
Mm,
trailing people and kind of doing espionage. Butcher was like the overseer and the planner. Frenchie was the chemist, and then Huey was the tech guy.
interesting.
And they've kind of only kept. Um, Mother's Milk does that a bit. Anyway, who do you want to talk about next?
All right, I think we should go from my personal least favorite arc to this season
Yeah,
to my favorite arc this season. And then we should talk about A Train.
it's the A Train. Yeah, I really like his arc. I think it's interesting because I think when you watch the show up to the start of season 4, I was always like, Deep is the one they kind of are leading towards something, and I could see him being redeemed because he just goes through the ringer time after time, and you kind of feel sorry for him. And A Train is the guy that before this season, like, was more, I don't want to say completely unforgivable, but he seemed a lot more gone. The fact that he was like fully like he killed his girlfriend under Homelander's orders,
Mm,
and he killed Robin and all those kind. I think you forget just how bad a guy he was in season 1. Um, and
I
I think
don't.
yeah, but what they
He
managed to do with him in this season, I think, is really great. Where they kind of do it as a slow burn, where they show him having more and more humanity. And it does set it up at the end of season 3, where like I feel like when you first find out he gets Gunpowder's heart, it's kind of a joke, and you're like, haha, that's a like a cruel twist of fate, and ha ha ha. But I don't think at the time I realized that that was going to be the turning point for this character.
I think if they made like let's say if they were like, all right, we're gonna put a map to make Deep the one who turns. I
Yeah,
don't think that would work because the Deep is just stupid.
yeah, that's true.
And it wouldn't make sense and it would feel a little bit cheap.
Uh-huh.
But A Train, you really like it. He was a bad, rotten apple in
Yeah,
season 1. But you could tell he was smarter
yeah,
than the Deep, and he did have a level of intellect that the Deep didn't have.
yeah,
And so it made sense. And then season 3, he was trying to at least present himself as giving a damn. And I think the way Eric quickly put it is he pretended for so long that he actually ended up caring. And
yeah.
I just think that was done really well, and I wasn't seeing that coming, and it was really well written.
And I really enjoyed his scenes with Mother's Milk. I really enjoyed the one in Mother's Milk's house. I really enjoy him saving um Mother's Milk, and then obviously the scene in the hospital was memed because it's like, oh, this guy's dead, and obviously he didn't die. And I also think he had a really interesting dynamic with Ashley.
Yeah. And also that fight scene with him, the Deep and Noir,
Yeah,
that was
that's
awesome.
that is probably second best fight scene in the whole show for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So how about we give characters arcs and like season appearance marks out of 10? I personally, oh, I don't want to say it, but I think I'd give Huey a 5.
Well, what's this scale at?
That's true.
If this scale is 0 out of 10 being my least favorite and 10 out of 10 being my most favorite, A Train's a 10 out of 10 and Huey's a 0 out of 10. But I actually, no. I would give Huey a 4 out of 10 because he had some really good 1 to 5. I really
Yeah,
liked it. So I give him a 4 out of 10 and A Train,
a 10.
I think he had a 10. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, why don't we go from A Train to his new bestie, Mother's Milk?
All right. I will say, though,
Gone.
you have a lot of characters to get through.
Yeah, we'll breeze through a lot of
Okay.
them.
All
Mother's
right. Let's save Homelander and Butcher for the last, though.
Yeah. Mother's
Okay.
not that interesting. Mm,
Not that interesting. He was trying to run away, but he couldn't. I thought that was done well. but
There's,
he's always doing that.
no, it is the classic complaint of him fighting. Bless you. In the same way
Thank
every
you.
season, and then it kind of just settles with, okay, you're back on the team. Like he does have the thing of like trying to give the leadership back to Butcher, which I think is interesting. But other than that, there's not a lot here for unfortunately.
He does. I do think the first couple episodes, there's a lot of no, Butcher's gone.
Yeah,
He's back.
that
No, we're done with Butcher.
that stuff
Guess
wasn't good.
what?
The stuff I like was him trying to then give the leadership to Butcher after that, but I still don't think it works. I think like a 7 or maybe a 6.
Yeah, I would say 6. Like they really, I feel like put him. He does the whole thing with A Train, which works, and I think him and how anxious he and like his panic attack, I thought that was interesting. You know what? I'm leaning more towards a 7 now that I
Okay,
think
yeah,
about
I
it.
forgot
Actually,
about the panic attack actually. Yeah, we can go with that. Okay, let's go back to the 7. Let's go one and then the other. Let's go Black Noir. Um, I think it's really funny that they were like, okay, let's make the Deep a real dramatic character now. Who's going to be the comedic relief? Let's go Black Noir, and I think it really works.
oh my god, that bro scene
Yeah,
was so funny.
when he first talks is so funny. Where he
Yeah,
goes, "What are we just supposed to do this all the time?" I
that
really like
was
him as the comedic relief.
and him having narcolepsy.
Yeah,
That's so funny.
yeah. I don't think I have a complaint for Black Noir.
No, he's dumb, stupid comedic relief, and he's written very well, and they use it sparingly. Like
Yep.
it's not overdone.
We go.
I will give it maybe it's less complex than any other character in the show, I'd say.
Yeah.
But even with that, I think I maybe give him an 8 out of 10.
Okay. I'm glad we agree on 8. Back to the boys.
Who we
My
go with?
second. Let's go to my second least favorite arc. This might be my least favorite arc of the series, in fact, and I have an argument for why. Frenchie.
All right, I disagree, but let's see what you have to say.
I just think it's interesting stuff. So his whole arc with Colin and having him have murdered his family, and then he finds out and he breaks up and he turns himself into prison, and then he very easily gets out of prison with no repercussions, and then he's just back to his normal self. I just thought
Mm,
I really don't like the fact that they dragged the Kamiko and Frenchie thing out for another season. I really think the bit in the hospital when they kissed, or just the end of season 3, would have been a really good time for them to be like, yeah, these two are together now. And I think the fact that they dragged it out for another season and the fact that they had this whole thing of him handing himself into the police was really poorly done.
darn. You make a very strong argument.
What do you like about it?
So I thought the Colin bit was really interesting.
Yeah, I agree.
And Frenchie has some just Frenchie has my favorite line in the entire series, I think.
Can I? They are in no shape. To what's the line?
I think
He's
he's
in
like,
no shape to fuck a sheep.
yeah. Oh my god. I have
That is very
every I've watched that episode actually several times because I've shown it to several people, and
yeah.
every time the person has like been like, stop, rewind. That was hilarious. I need to see that again. It's so funny.
It's so funny. Yeah, that's a good point. It's a good line.
But I think I liked that because essentially if I was to dissect why the show did that whole Frenchie arc,
Yeah,
it's to be able to pair it with Kimiko's arc
yeah,
and to eventually, I think spoilers, obviously,
yeah,
the whole way is so that Kimiko can finally speak.
yeah,
That's it. But that's why the whole Colin arc exists.
yeah,
Colin kind of came in out of nowhere and left out of nowhere.
yeah,
And I think, sometimes I feel like I get a little bit nitpicky, and it's just the nature of how TV shows work.
hmm
Because I'm more of a, if I'm being, I naturally gravitate more towards movies and TV
yeah.
shows.
Muslims in them.
Um, so I I just don't think it was done very well, but I found it to be something interesting with Frenchie's character, and I think it added a lot of tension to Frenchie's character because you were like, why
Yeah.
is he going to die? What's going to happen with these two?
But
Um,
I think that's the number one subplot that every time it cut to it, I was like, can we get back to the other stuff?
that's true. That's true. And I would agree with you that it's definitely on the lower tier of characters, but I think there's one other one that
Okay.
I think was fumbled harder.
I'm interested to hear it is because I'm not sure. But can we agree that the whole turning himself into prison thing is dumb?
Yeah, it felt more of been like, all right, we don't know what to do with this character for the next episode, so let's just have him in prison.
Yeah, and the whole getting him out. So what we say, I want to say a 5.
Sure, I'll settle on a 5. But yeah, that's something this episode does. This season does a lot of. The boys have government power, so they can get things done easily.
Yeah.
Like Butcher getting a frame of him and his wife under Ryan's Christmas tree.
Yeah. Overall complaint I have about this season is that the boys feel pretty useless. Like I don't like they don't, and I know the whole point is that they're supposed to fail at the end, but along the way they don't really succeed in anything either.
Yeah, I agree. But
Uh,
let's move on to another character from the Seven.
shall we go with one of the new ones, Firecracker?
Firecracker, I thought she was interesting when she was on screen. It wasn't like I was necessarily bored of this subplot.
Yeah.
Um,
Did you think that your TV show kept? Did you keep thinking your TV just changed to an American news channel?
no,
Haha, I got him.
we don't
American.
have Fox.
um,
She was good, but I do think um the least notable out of the two members of the
yeah,
new members of the Seven.
yeah. I like the. I think it's really interesting this element of when they're just like, oh, by the way, she's a paedophile, and then she just cops to it fully. I think that's so interesting, and I think the first 4 episodes or so, I do think she works really well in. Um, and I think once she's like fully in the Seven, and once like Sage has had her use for her, and Starlight's beating her up, that's when I'm a bit like, this is dragging on. Like, yeah,
I think once she like forms an acquaintance with Homelander,
yeah,
if you will, her role becomes less uh intriguing in Seven.
yeah.
And it's
Another,
just like she's
yeah.
Homelander's acquaintance, and that's it.
Can I give you an overall complaint?
Sure.
I think I don't want to be that guy, but I think some of the political messaging in this show has gone a bit too overt.
Give me an example.
I think, like, for example, the fact that the plan to assassinate the president was on January 6th.
Okay. Well,
Is
I've
it?
heard Eric Kripke talk about this.
Yeah.
And if I'm correct, this show, when they were writing it, was initially planned to come out around that time.
Uh huh.
And then Eric Kripke was like, well, we can't just have it not. Like, they were like literally thinking of just being like, this is too perfect.
But that sort of thing,
We might as well.
like, it was at that point, I'm like, yeah, we get it. He's Trump. Like, in some of the earlier seasons, it's easy to miss, but at that point, you're like, yeah, I get what this, like, it does. I don't know. I don't mind the fact that they're making it obvious that this show's political because it's been obvious the whole time. But I think stuff like that, it kind of, you're like, yeah, I get it.
I don't really mind. Like, at the end of the edge, it's just, oh, look, January 6th. That's like the same date as
Yeah.
one of our tragedies. Okay.
But it's how I agree that if it was once, I'm like, yeah, that's good. It's just how many times it's brought up, you know. But
I don't really mind.
hmm,
what it gets even the fact that the same day this episode comes out, where Homelander says, "Make America safe again,"
Yeah.
Donald Trump changes his running slogan to "Make America safe again" the same day. That's insane.
There was some crazy promo for The Boys. What can I say? Anyway, what are we giving Firecracker?
6.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, sure. Shall we go to Kamiko?
Yeah. I think she really worked in the final episodes.
Yeah.
In the beginning, they again, and this is just my overall problem with like TV show structures. In the beginning couple episodes, it just kind of feels like they're just throwing the plots in. Like you forgot about what is her cult called?
The something, the Shining Light, the
Shining Light. Yeah, that's it.
okay.
It's like, oh yeah, I forgot she was in the Shining Light thing, and she's at like the convention, and that just felt kind of shoehorned in.
Yeah.
And I feel like they needed that for the last couple of episodes to make sense for her character. But that when it did focus on her in the beginning, a couple episodes, it was just kind of like it like you said, it was one of those subplots where I was like, okay, can we get back to
Yeah. Just to I think a praise I would have said about season 3 is that they very well in it they do a very good job of giving every character their own arc and their own little story within that season that like helps culminate towards the end of the season. And I think after watching this season, I'm kind of like, you don't have to give every character their own subplot and their own little story. Like it's fine just to have Kamiko there to either help out Frenchie or blah blah blah. Like I don't think you need to give every character their own little subplot.
yeah, to a certain extent. Like I think for Frenchie and Kimiko, the only reason that those subplots exist, one is to make Kimiko talk again,
Yeah.
and also to like let's like if you take away both their subplots,
Yeah.
and you see what happens to them at the end, you'll be able to connect it because they've had this relationship since the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? So like, I think it's just there to keep the audience's understanding of these two's relationship.
Yeah.
I think like a perfect example as to why is you looked at Starlight and Huey, who barely had any scenes together, and I don't think maintained
Yeah.
their chemistry as much as Kimiko and Frenchie did. And so when they're separated, you feel less bad for those two specifically, and more like Huey's in trouble. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I do think they should have just been together this season though from the start. Like I do think they were working it out a bit. Okay. What do you want to give Kamiko? I would say another 6.
Yeah, a 6.
Okay. Let's move on to the Deep. I think the fact that by the end of this season they made him fully like commit and be like, I no longer care about sea life. I no longer care about this. I just care about like Homelander now, and I'll do whatever I'm told. I think it's really interesting. I don't think they did a phenomenal job setting it up though.
I think when they went to write the Deep in this episode, they were like, all of his character complexity, everything, we're just giving up on. And we're going to make this character really stupid. And honestly, it works for me.
But he's always been stupid.
He always has been. But like in season 2 specifically, they treated him with a lot more respect.
Yeah, but like in season 1, like he's breaking dolphins out of the aquarium to like,
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
But I just think like specific, like he's like especially stupid in this season for me. And I think it works. And I think him kind of like training Black Noir in a sense helps.
Yeah, and him be like, oh, you just love to murder people, man. You really need to lean into that. I think that's pretty funny. I
And
do,
I love his bits with the octopus and Tilda Swinton.
yeah, they're pretty funny. And I just really like the idea that by the end of the season, he's like, yeah, I'm fully on, and he's like the number one, the only guy left from the OG team, and number two, the most diehard guy for Homelander.
Yeah.
I quite like as an idea. What would you give him out of 10?
7. I think like I agree with you.
I
Like
think
it,
seven strong.
his turn kind of comes out of nowhere, but his character is just so shallow
Yeah.
that it doesn't take me out of it.
Okay. Let's talk about Newman. What did you think of her over the course of this series?
Good. I think she was interesting. I think the whole subplot of people trying to figure out how to kill her really worked when Butcher eventually did.
Yeah, I think that's fun.
Um,
I really like
and
in the last episode of her with her powers on TV.
yeah, that really worked. And her bits with Giancarlo worked as well.
Oh,
And I think
seeing Stan Edgar back was an absolute highlight. That guy is so cool.
I think that's what really sold her character working for me was like reminding the audience of this weird relationship she has and how she's afraid of or wanting to hide her being a soup and
Yeah,
where she grew up and like how it was treated. I just think she really worked. I don't
I
think she's the strongest character.
yeah, I think her turn at the end worked when she tried to join the boys. I think that really felt earned.
Yeah, because Huey just keeps on trying to push this humanity on her. And yeah, I
I
think
think
she
another
worked. What?
I think another seven.
Yeah.
For a seven for the seven. Ha 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 ha. Okay, Sage. Sister Sage, the other new soup of the season.
Prior to episode 1 through 7,
Yeah,
I was like, she's good, but the boys, she's not. She didn't prove herself as being super smart.
yeah.
She had moments, but then episode 8, revealing that more or less this was her plan, although it was kind of a cheap cop out. Like a little bit was like,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
I think it worked.
I think it works in the fact that you understand that this isn't what she knew would happen all along, but she had so many backup plans that eventually she knew that something was going to work. Like her plan A was to kill the president, but if that didn't work, she already had this plan B lined up. And then she probably also had a plan C and a plan D and blah, blah, blah. And I think that made it quite interesting. And I think they did a really good job of making her seem intelligent in those early episodes as well.
And her with like that whole kind of subplot with the deep and noir was really funny.
The noir reveal is so funny.
Yeah. And I really like the actress too.
Yeah,
She nailed it.
yeah.
So I think I would go as far to give her an 8 out of 10. I liked everything. I think she really works as a new member of the Seven.
Yeah. Okay, next let's talk about Ashley. I think we have three people left after Ashley.
Cool. Ashley has always kind of gotten on my nerves.
Yeah, I think she's supposed to.
Yeah, the whole like her like domination kink.
Yeah, yeah, I do agree. And her involved, and it did fully feel like she was just. Um, I really don't want to use these words. I really feel like she was rammed into the Tech Night scenes.
Oh,
Like I
okay.
don't deserve to be there. Like not that she didn't know. I don't think it felt earned that she was there, and I don't think it felt natural. I think it was kind of like, oh, Ashley's not doing anything this episode.
Yeah. However, her relationship with A Train was interesting.
Yeah, I think that's really strong. I think her being her firing her only good assistant was like a nice little character moment.
Mm-hmm. And I'm really interested to see where she ends up in season 5 because she won't be the same.
Any predictions on powers?
Somebody said like she'll be like the leader, and I thought that was interesting.
I've heard that, but I think that is very similar to Sage.
Mm,
I like the idea of her being like a Medusa, and
that
it
would be funny.
it being hair related still.
Yeah.
Um, what would you give her? I think like a 7.
Really? I was thinking maybe like a 5.
Should we go 6?
Sure.
Like, 'cause I don't think there's anything bad in there.
It's fine.
Next up, before we get to the main two, let's talk about Ryan.
I the Ryan subplot I found really interesting
Me too.
because at the end of the day, he is just like a blank slate who's just trying to figure out who he is, right?
A
He
complaint
knows.
is that there's too much flip flopping. Would you agree?
Um, so there's an episode where he makes a director get slapped, right? Up to that point, I thought it was really well written.
Yeah.
Like, this is really interesting.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I think he is like a good person, or like he has moral intentions,
Yes.
but he's being corrupted by his dad.
Yeah.
After that, I do think there's a little bit too much flip flopping.
Yeah,
But his eventual, like, I think he eventually kills Mallory and gets really mad, and I think that's justified because he starts freaking out because this is what he did. I just think that was bad writing for Mallory. It
I
felt
think
a little bit out of character.
Mallory fully fumbled that, and I think that is pretty crap.
Um, but if we're just looking at Ryan's character, I don't think that was necessarily too flip floppy because
Yeah.
I think any kid would have freaked out in that scenario.
Uh-huh. I think it's kind of difficult to say because you don't see what happens next. As in, like,
Yeah,
you see his next scene with Homelander. I think the scene on the TV show, I think, is really, really good.
I think the most interesting theory I've had is that he teams up with Soldier Boy.
Yeah, I can see that. And also because Soldier Boy is like wanting that kind of son figure, and like I think his grandson would do a good
Yeah,
job. Well, I think a 7 or an 8 for Ryan.
I would go 8
Yeah, I'm happy
because
with
there were times where, because if I'm being honest, prior to this season, I really didn't really care much for Ryan.
Yeah.
And this season made me care for him as a character, and I think the actor, did really well
Yeah.
as well.
Do you enjoy his TikToks?
Yep, yep.
Okay, so do you want to move on to Billy or John?
Let's do Billy.
Okay, let's do Billy and Kessler because when they revealed that Kessler was actually Billy, I was absolutely flabbergasted. I think that
I did not. Oh my God! You could have put a gun to my head, and I wouldn't have seen that coming.
not at all. I think it's really interesting. What I like about Billy in this is kind of the implications of what comes next, and the fact that you have now got him to the point that he's kind of the guy he is in the comics, and I think that is so interesting. Bold theory. I think the final fight in this entire series will be the boys trying to stop Homelander. Sorry, trying to stop Billy.
No, I
I
think
think
so too.
I think Billy's going to be the final boss, and I think it's going to be down to Huey and Ryan to bring back his humanity. And I think Billy's definitely not going to survive, but he'll die a hero's death.
Yeah, I think that's realistic. Um, I thought one. I think Billy in this season, he's like fine.
Yeah,
Because he is like nerfed,
yeah,
and it's just like it kind of what you'd expect. And I think his eventual turn works, especially in the final season episode.
yeah.
But one thing I really did enjoy, and I've talked about this to several people,
Uh-huh.
one of my biggest nitpicks in filmmaking in general is when one of the characters has to say to the main character, "Oh, you look awful," even though they look like the most beautiful person on the planet.
Yeah, I think they do a really good job of making him look so sweaty and grubby.
Butcher progressively looks like garbage
Yeah.
this season.
Yeah.
And I think that they really will make up. I don't know if he even had like CGI in his eyes to make them look more glassy.
I don't know if they like if he lost weight for this season as well, but it also wouldn't surprise me.
He just looks awful.
Yeah. Every time
And
he came on screen, I all I could think about was how bad that guy must smell. He must stink. Like that's what just I think it's kind of the coat and how many liquids we know he gets covered in, and just he must stink.
but honestly, I do think this is my least favorite Butcher season.
I think yeah. Yeah, I think an argument could be made for season one. And the fact that he has less of an arc.
Yeah, but like we just get some. I like the argument could be made, but I just feel like he was the least interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. I did like the Kessler stuff, and my favorite thing about Billy this season, just like the entire season as a whole, is where he's ended up.
Yeah, 100. And where he ends up is badass. How he kills Newman was
Yeah.
awesome.
Quick question. Do you think there's any chance that that's the shifter?
No,
No.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure the shifter's dead.
I don't think Starlight killed her. But yeah.
I think I'm pretty sure the star shifter's dead.
Okay. Okay.
That's just me.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Anyway, I would give Billy a 7. Mate,
I
yeah.
was leaning more towards an 8. Like I was like a little harsh, but like all Butcher seasons, I would give a 9, and for this, an 8.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And I just it's just I really like this idea that the boys are really good at earning certain scenes. Like Hero Gasm. We've talked about this a lot. I don't know if this is on podcast or off. Probably both. The fact that you could have done the big fight in Hero Gasm at the end of season one. Um and it would have been sick. But the fact that it's 3.5 seasons into the show, it makes it feel so much better because it's earned.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the same thing can be said for Billy in this season, where from season one, you could make him the guy he is in the comics, and you can make him this absolutely heartless monster, which is what he is in the comics. But I think the fact that they've waited 4 whole seasons to do that,
Yeah,
that also everything he does from now is going to feel so earned.
I'm interested to see like so Butcher he takes V,
Yeah.
right? And what I my theory is it made the tumor in his head or something like conscience,
No,
like
I think that's true. I because I'm pretty sure Kessler has lines saying Kessler is the tumor.
yeah. And I think that in a certain extent, like Butcher has given over himself
Yeah,
to it.
yeah, and I think the virus can save him, but that's a different conversation.
So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how they do it.
Yeah,
But yeah. All right. Are we
let's
done with Butcher?
let's talk about Homie.
Oh man. He really, I think this season did the heavy lifting for why Homelander acts the way he does, so
Yeah,
that they can make him just a monster next season.
I agree. I think the episode in the lab is really good Homelander stuff,
Yeah.
and I really like the fact that in the script, supposedly Anthony Starr said originally he was supposed to go in there and just kill all of them. I don't know if you saw this.
I think so.
but then he was the one that said, "Hey, let's add some nuance onto this and have him have a bit of fun with it, and have him like be nice to people, and then make the switch." And I think that is really what sells this. I think watching him desperately try to be a dad to Ryan, but be the world's worst dad is really great stuff. Like just truly an awful guy as a dad.
I think at when you were talking about Ryan being flip floppy,
Yeah,
I think Homelander is more flip floppy when it comes to being a good dad. Because there's this during the milkshake, like the slapping scene.
yeah. Sorry, it's the fact that whenever Homelander has a bad day, he always shares a milk product with his son.
Yep, 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 yep,
Right,
yep, yep, yep,
go on.
yep. Yep. Um, he like for a moment you think he's actually a good dad because he's like, Ryan, what do you want? And then he said something that Homelander wouldn't like,
Yeah,
but Homelander's like, that's awesome. And I found that really interesting because he might not be a good dad, but he's trying.
yeah.
But then
I
the next episode, he's like, Ryan, shut up, shut up. Just do it, okay?
I think in that bit he is literally he's doing the best thing he can because his version of being a good person and helping people out is like picking on that guy. Um, I think I think the Homelander stuff is really good and really clever. I really like the fact. I was saying this in the early episodes. I really love the fact this dynamic you give him, where you give him a character that tells him exactly what to do, and he knows for a fact that whatever that character tells him to do is the correct thing to do and will get him what he wants, but he's still unable to listen. I think is really, really fun and a really fun dynamic to shove in there.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's done well. Um, I think, him winning is a really interesting way to take the story.
Yeah,
And I think I'm just so interested to see where he goes in this next season.
I agree. I want to give him a 10 out of 10 as well because I don't really have any faults.
I'm good with 10 out of 10.
Yeah,
I think that
settled. So
works.
that is every character discussed. 14 characters we've gone through. Um, shall we talk about the ending and then we can wrap this up? Talk about the ending.
Yeah.
Talk about season 5. Like I was messaging friend of the podcast Will about this. The day before, this is a long story that isn't really worth it. It's just to warn you. The day before, he messaged me, asked me when the peak times of our cinema was. So like when are the more expensive tickets? Harlan's already yawning at this story, and I and he messaged me saying when is peak, and I said tomorrow morning when the season finale of The Boys comes out. And then I watched it before he did, and I was like, I wasn't lying. You really need to wait for the last 20 minutes of this episode because the last 20 minutes of this episode, is like almost saves the whole season in some ways because it really
Yeah.
makes you go, oh, this is why everything is so slow and it's so poorly paced, and it doesn't make me forgive those mistakes, but it definitely doesn't make me lose faith in this show because now I'm really looking forward to season 5.
Yeah, for sure. I think the Nirvana heart-shaped box it worked so well.
This show knows
And
song.
yeah, and they do a perfect job setting it up because the boys are losing, but then they lose hard.
Yeah,
And them all being kidnapped when you think they're fine, splitting up.
yeah. Could you?
Starlight getting away. We never talked about Starlight.
Oh, that's the 15th character, Starlight. I would say a 6 out of 10. She loses her powers for no reason.
She's my second least favorite
Yeah,
arc. I think what the one episode with her and Firecracker I thought was really interesting, but for the most part, I think she just kind of drops the ball.
I do think
And
they forget about that arc of that subplot of her being like a bully to Firecracker.
Yeah, and she just is kind of all over the place in
Yeah,
terms of her character motivations, and it's just hard to get behind her at times.
yeah. I like I said, I think the abortion stuff really works. I think that is a solid thing to chuck in.
Yeah.
It's also like some things you don't need to hide behind a metaphor, you know? Like so much of the
Hmm.
commentary in this show is shrouded behind superhero stuff. I think the fact that they did that so down the middle and they like said exactly what it is and what's going on, I think really works in its benefit. So I like that. I would go maybe a 5 or a 6 for Starlight.
I'll go 5.
Okay. Should we quickly go through where every character's ended up? Like I can rapid fire tell you.
Sure, yeah, go ahead.
So, going off in the order we just talked about them, Huey is arrested. A Train, who knows where he is? Mother's Milk was arrested by the Love Sausage. Black Noir is he's fully into murdering people now. He loves it. He's part of the Seven. Frenchie arrested. Firecracker in the Seven, still quite ill. Kamiko captured. I guess we can assume she was arrested as well. The Deep is in the Seven, fully fledged. To Homelander now. Newman dead. Sage exactly where she started off helping out Homelander. Ashley, who knows? She's got superpowers. Ryan, you're not really sure. Starlight escaped. Billy is out there, and Homelander is, kind of in charge of the country. Season 5, I think we're going to get Starlight and A Train team up. I think.
Starlight, A-Train, and Ashley, I think.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll introduce Ashley because I think it's kind of the thing. Yeah, I think Starlight. Yeah, maybe Ashley. I think another member of the Seven. I can see there's. I doubt it will be the Deep at this point, but it wouldn't amaze me if it was him. Maybe Black Noir, probably Firecracker. I think are going to defect and help out the boys.
No, I think Firecracker's gonna die before she could defect.
Fair enough. So my final question to you, Harlan.
Yes.
Just do you have any predictions you want to check out first?
Um, I don't know.
Who do you think is definitely dead 100% by the end of the show? Homelander and Billy are the only two I think I'm comfortable saying that with.
I'm gonna say, um, I had to throw one more in there that I'm
Yep.
pretty confident is gonna die. It's
You
the
agree
Deep.
with? Okay. Do you agree with Homelander and Billy?
Yeah,
Honestly, my number 3 would probably be Soldier Boy, but yeah,
maybe,
maybe. Okay. My
maybe.
final question. You have to put a prediction on this right now. Um,
Okay,
I won't remember to hold you to this, but I'll try. Who is getting the killing blow on Homelander?
Huey.
You think it's going to be? I was not expecting Huey.
Oh, Homeland. I thought you said Butcher.
Sorry,
Um, I think it'll be Ryan.
really. I think top 3 are obviously Ryan, Billy, and Soldier Boy.
No, I think it'll be Ryan.
Yeah, yeah. I can see Ryan. I think I agree. I could see a world where he loses his powers, and then you could chuck it to anyone at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait to see Homelander die.
Do you think it's going to be real quick, like Victoria Newman's?
I don't think any big character death is gonna be quick like the Victoria Newman's.
Fair enough. My reasoning is every time I imagine it, I think they really want to get number one. He's going to explode. He has to have the iconic, get blood on literally everyone.
Mm.
I think they're going to want it to be real shocking. Like maybe at the end of episode 7, something like that, where it's just like, wow, that guy just exploded.
I think Homelander is such a cornerstone of this series. It it won't be a quick moment.
Yeah, fair enough. I like the idea. Here's something I really like the idea of him losing his powers quite like maybe like episode 5, and then he has to spend the next 2 or 3 episodes pretending he's got his powers.
That'd be interesting.
Because I think he could do it pretty well. You know, no one's going to test him.
Yeah,
And how often does he use them? Anyway, I think that's all I have to say about the boys.
me as well.
Solid season.
Solid season, not the best, maybe the worst.
I think it's the worst of the 3. I think I prefer it to Gen V.
No, I think Gen V is better than season 1 of The Boys.
I think I have to rewatch Gen V, to be honest.
I was very, very surprised by how much I liked that show.
I do think I need to rewatch it. But anyway, a solid series of television. Series 5 cannot come soon enough. We support Homelander. I think that's everything I needed to say.
I do not stand by this British man's opinions.
Also, you didn't like the boys.
What?
You didn't like the boys season 4. That's what I just said.
No, you said you stand by Homelander. Is what you said.
You stand by Homelander?
No, that's oh my god, you know what?
Wait, I did have one more thing to say.
All right, I need to get out of here.
We will talk to you next week. Okay.
Maybe it's about Lars and the Real Girl. Maybe it's about some other
Maybe
movie news.
something will be released without Ryan Gosling again. But I cannot see that happening because it's weird that it happened once. No,
It's
sorry.
weird.
I'm sorry to make this longer than it already is, but there's one question I really wanted to ask you. You have to recast one person in this show as Ryan Gosling. With Ryan Gosling, who do you want to swap out with Ryan Gosling?
Homelander.
Homelander. I want to go the Deep.
Oh, the Deep would be so good.
He would be so good as the Deep. I think Frenchie would be fun. I think I'm going to go with the Deep.
Yeah, I think that's a correct answer, honestly.
Yeah, I think it's like the Deep has the worst kind of Kennedy, is all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
The Deep could be a Ken. 100%.
That's the real beach Ken. Thank you for listening. Yeah, like we said, next week maybe more Ryan Gosling, maybe not more Ryan Gosling. We shall see. Thank you for listening.
Adios.
Goodbye. Damn you.